Oh my god. You guys better hit the like button because I just spat all over my floor for that. Anyways, I've actually been getting a lot of questions recently about whether or not I'm selling Tesla stock. That's right, I'm sure you know that Tesla stock recently just broke $1,500 a share. Like, holy smokes, guys. This stock is absolutely going bananas. Now, a lot of people have been asking me, what are you doing with Tesla stock? Are you selling, or are you buying more still, or are you just gonna hold? So in today's video, we're gonna answer exactly that. And you know what? I'm just gonna give you a straight answer right now. And my answer is, I'm not selling. I'm not interested in selling. I'm not selling a single share. Not doing it. Nope, not interested. Okay, I'm gonna tell you why, of course, but before I do that, let me share a little story with you. You guys really seem to love me ranting about random stuff for some reason, so I'm gonna give you another little rant story today, so hope you guys enjoy. And so back last year when I was studying at the University of Waterloo, I entered in this competition that was run by the UW Finance Association. So the UW Finance Association is basically a student-run organization, and then they do things like professional networking events, discounted cash flow analysis. They teach you how to do that. And they also do, like, they dress up in fancy suits and they have like cocktail parties. I don't know what they do, right? But yeah, they dress up in fancy suits and then they like listen to presentations by like industry bankers and stuff like that. So yeah, that's the UW Finance Association. And to be quite honest, I've never really been a big fan of the UW Finance Association. And the reason for that is because I sort of see them as sort of the anti-fire club. So we're the fire club here, right? And they're the anti-fire club. So here on the Fire Club, I would say that the goal of this channel is really about how to take control of your own finances and become, well, financially independent and get to a point where you're sort of just working for yourself instead of working a 9-to-5 job and not have to deal with corporate BS or climb the corporate ladder or deal with corporate politics until you're 65. So that's the goal of this channel. Now, how successful I am at promoting this message and encouraging you guys to do so, that's up to you guys to decide. But that's a topic for another video. So moving on, in my view, the UW Finance Association is all about the exact opposite of what I'm trying to promote at the Fire Club. So in my opinion, it's all about the best way to get into a big corporation so that you can work, like say, like 80 hours a week. And if you play your cards right and you climb the corporate ladder, you'll be comfortable to retire by the time you're 65. So essentially, it's all about how to get a job at Scotiabank. Now, that probably explains why I got rejected from Scotiabank about 200 times. But anyways, that's also another story for another video. Now you're like, okay, but what does this have to do with Tesla? Hold on, let me explain, okay? So back last September in 2019, I entered in the UW Finance Association stock pitch competition, which is basically this competition where you have to pick a stock investment that you think is undervalued and you have to go long on the stock, which means that you can't like pitch a short thesis, right? You can't pitch why this stock will crash. You can only pitch why you think that this stock will go up. So it has to be a long stock, and basically you have to make a presentation slide and then submit it, and then if you win the competition, there's prize money at the end. So basically the people who are judging it are industry professionals, so they get analysts from the big banks, all the 5 Canadian banks, and then they also, sometimes they will have judges from like investment firms like, I don't know, Morgan Stanley or something, right? So yeah, those are the judges, and if you manage to impress the judges, you can win prize money at the end, and then maybe you can network with those people as well, right? So that's the idea of the competition. And you know, I entered in the competition, and guess what stock I picked? That's right, Tesla. Now, at the time, the stock was trading in the 200s. I think it was like $240 or something. I can't remember the exact price, but I put it in the final slide of my presentation. Now, also in the final slide, I gave a valuation and I gave a price target. So the price target that I set was $680. Now, I admit, at that time, it was kind of a ridiculous stock price target because at the time, the stock was like 240, as I said, right? So essentially, I was saying that it was going to do a 3x. And this was at a time when Wall Street analysts were giving crazy low price targets. Like, no one believed in Tesla. They were saying how like Tesla has no demand, which was an absolute hoax that was just made up by a bunch of Tesla short sellers, in my opinion. But people were saying that Tesla had no demand, and one Wall Street analyst even put out a $10 price target for Tesla. Yeah, that's right. He was saying that the stock was going to go to $10, which means basically he thinks that the stock is going to go bankrupt, right? The stock is at $1,500, by the way, in case you haven't noticed. They say there's only 2 jobs in the world where you can be wrong more than 50% of the time and still keep your job. And those jobs are a meteorologist, so the weatherman, and number 2, a Wall Street analyst. So yeah, that's why people don't trust Wall Street analysts, right? Anyways, I put a lot of effort into that slide deck, and you know what? I'm actually gonna make it publicly available. So if you go down in the description box, I'll put a link down to my personal website where you can download my presentation slide in a PDF format. So I'm gonna make that publicly available. So check it out if you are interested. But unfortunately, my submission was rejected by the UW Finance Association. Now, keep in mind that this is not like I didn't win the competition. This is like they literally didn't let me compete in the competition. They were like, your slide deck is not even good enough to enter into the competition, to have a spot in it. Never mind compete with other people and never mind winning the competition. So I was kind of disappointed in that, to say the least. And they didn't tell me why they rejected my slides, but if I had to guess, my best guess is that they had a problem with my $680 price target, which, as I said, was a 3x to where the stock was trading at the moment. And I guess they just didn't believe me. But here we are, less than a year later, and the stock's at 1500. So who was right? I'm just saying, right? So yeah, anyways, forget about that. But I just want to make a note that, you see, as a small-time investor, that you do have advantages over institutional investors, because all this information that I made in the slide, all the information was publicly available back in August and September when I made those slides. So none of the information that I used was insider information. I had zero insider information. I was just a university student back then, right? So how could I have access to any like crazy information? I had none, right? So the institutional investors, the people, the judges that were judging the competition, they probably have way more information access than me because they all work for like Scotiabank or RBC or whatever. So I just want to make a note that just because you are a small-time individual and you're investing on like Wealthsimple or Robinhood or something, sometimes you have more advantages over an institutional investor as a small-time investor. Then you have more advantages than you know. That's what I'm trying to say. So anyways, going back to the original question on why I'm not selling Tesla, let me just run through my presentation and we'll go through a few slides. We won't go through every single slide just for the sake of time. But yeah, we'll go through some of the main points on my presentation. And by the end of the video, you'll hopefully understand why I'm not selling Tesla. Now let's go through the presentation. So looking at this slide, basically what I'm trying to say in this slide is that Tesla's performance advantage is so great compared to everything else that's available on the market. So this chart basically compares the Porsche Taycan, which came out around that time last year in 2019. And you can see that the Tesla Model S is not only cheaper, but performs better on pretty much every single metric. And going forward, looking at this slide, if you look at vehicle deliveries in the USA, looking at data from August of 2019, you can see that Tesla just blows everyone out of the water, right? So you have Tesla and literally every other automaker who's making EVs, their EVs are performing terribly in comparison to Tesla. Now, maybe they hit their internal targets or whatnot, but again, like there's just no comparison, right? It's just a night and day difference. Yeah, when it comes to performance and when it comes to just being the market leader right now, there's no beating Tesla. And this was the case back in August and September of 2019, and this is still the case now. And I think this will be the case going into the future as well. And the number 2 thing I want to mention is the autonomous driving. So you already know that Tesla is the leader in autonomous driving by a landslide, but have you ever thought about the reason why? So if I were to answer that question, it's because of one thing, and that thing is data. So think about it. If you're Uber and you want to do autonomous driving, first, you don't make cars, so you have to buy cars from OEM manufacturers like Chrysler or Ford or whatever, and then you have to retrofit those cars. So you have to hire an engineer to sit in those vehicles to test the car. And trust me, engineers are not cheap, okay? I don't know if they can hire UW interns to do this, but even if they hire UW interns, it's not gonna be cheap, right? So that's my point. Then if you're Uber, you're gonna have to test it on a closed course to begin with, right? Maybe you can expand it to like local neighborhoods after it gets good, but it's still going to be local roads, and you have a limited fleet anyways. You have maybe like couple thousand cars max, right? So my point is, you're not getting that much data from just a couple hundred cars, and it's going to be really expensive because you're paying people basically by the hour to like test the car, or you're paying salaried engineers to test the cars, right? So it's going to be expensive and you're not getting that much data. And what's the most important resource to refining machine learning algorithms? Now, I know some of you might not be familiar with like computer science and all that stuff, but machine learning algorithms are basically just the software that runs the like autonomous driving software, right? So when a car like learns what a stop sign is, or what a red light is, or how to do a lane change and stuff like that, the machine has to sort of learn how to do that, right? So how do you train a machine to do that? You need to use what's called machine learning algorithms. Now, to power machine learning algorithms, what do you need? Data is the thing that you need to feed it, right? So the more data you feed it, the more examples it has to compare on what's, let's say, a good lane change versus a bad lane change. So it can determine whether or not it's safe to make a lane change, or what's a red light versus what's a green light, and what does a stop sign look like, things like that, right? So you need data. That's my point. So if you're Uber, you don't have that much data, and it's really expensive for you to get data. And this applies to other autonomous driving companies too, like Google's Waymo. That applies to them as well, or even Lyft. So yeah, you have no choice though if you're Uber or Lyft, right? So you have to kind of just put up with it. But Tesla is different. Tesla collects this data from its customers, right? So every time a customer puts on the autonomous driving function on their car and have the car auto drive, Tesla is collecting that data. And if you just keep in mind how many Tesla customers are out there compared to how many Uber engineers are out there, there's like a magnitude of difference, right? How many Uber engineers do you know, and how many Teslas do you see out on the streets, right? So there's a lot more people who drive Teslas than there are people working as an engineer at Uber. So it's a massive deal because there's a huge difference in magnitude of the data that they're able to collect. And yeah, Tesla's able to use that data to just power their algorithms a lot more efficiently because their algorithms can learn a lot faster, right? So that's the first thing. And the second thing is that when Tesla customers drive, they're driving in the real world. They're not driving in like a closed course or in just like small local neighborhoods. They're actually driving it to, let's say, pick up groceries or drop their kids off at school, or going to another city to visit their parents or whatever, right? So people are using Teslas to drive in the real world. If you're on a closed course and stuff like that, you can kind of control everything, right? You can kind of have it like sheltered. So yeah, it's a complete night and day difference when it comes to closed course data versus like real world data. So if you're Uber or if you're Lyft, you can only do some like maybe localized driving, and you can test within, let's say, like certain cities and stuff like that. Versus with Tesla, you're literally getting data from all over the world, from everyone driving a Tesla, and in all kinds of road conditions at pretty much every hour of the day. So not only is there like a magnitude difference, there's like a difference in terms of the quality of the data that you're getting. So data is better on the Tesla side. And also keep in mind, there's a difference between paying to get the data and getting paid to get the data. So if you just go on Tesla's website, you can see that the latest self-auto driving software costs about $8,000 US. Now I'll put what that is in Canadian right now, but it's a lot of money, right? So every time you buy a Tesla, if you want the full self-auto driving package, you're gonna have to pay $8,000 US to get that package. So that's a lot of money. Hopefully I don't have to tell you. And a lot of people actually opt for that. So if you're driving, you're literally paying Tesla $8,000 just to give them data. Versus if you're Uber, you probably have to pay like engineers, I don't know, like $100K a year just to get the data, and that data quality is not as good because, as I said, it's just local roads and closed courses. There's not only a difference in magnitude of the data that you're getting, there's also a difference in terms of like getting paid and paying people. So there's also a difference between profiting from getting the data and like actually paying to buy the data. So that's the advantage that Tesla has when it comes to data. Now I could go on about a million more things on why I think Tesla is the most dominant company when it comes to electric vehicles, and why they still have a bright future ahead of them despite the stock price being at $1,500 a share. But I don't want this video to be like 2 hours long, so I'll stop here. So to summarize, I can't sell out of a company like Tesla. Come on guys, I just can't do it, right? So even though the stock price is at $1,500, I am not interested in selling. I just can't do it. Now the big question is, am I buying more Tesla? And the short answer is, I do want to, but at these price levels, I no longer believe that it is necessarily the best risk to reward ratio that's available on the stock market right now. So yeah, it might not be the best place to park your money at the moment. So I don't necessarily want to be buying like super heavy into Tesla at the moment either. So you know what, I'm just gonna hold my shares. And I know that's such a boring answer and probably not what you guys were looking for. I made you guys watch all this video just to tell you that I'm doing absolutely nothing with my Tesla shares, but hey, it is what it is, right? So Anyways, be sure to give this video a like if you enjoyed the video, and consider subscribing if you like this series. Be sure to follow me on Twitter and Instagram, links down below in the description as always. And with that being said, I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye bye!